Welcome to Single Tree Nation. I'm your man, Charlie Eblin, the host and owner of Single Tree Woodfire Barbecue. We are here to build community through undeniable hospitality, storytelling, and the perfect plate of barbecue. Welcome back to Single Tree Nation, guys. As always, I'm your man, Charlie, and we always have our illustrious co-host here, Mr. Derry Wells.
What is up, everybody?
Oh, it's such a wonderful day.
It's a refreshing day.
It is.
It got above 50 today.
Look, I'm going to go ahead and tell you.
50 today. It was 42, 44.
My map said 52 when I sent those kids outside today.
So today we have a pretty cool episode, a little bit different than what we normally do. I decided to finally invite somebody that I've known for a long time, who probably should have been on my show many
Episodes.
moons ago.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into the all exciting realm of the financial world with Mr. Dan Rogers.
Evening, everybody. Hey, can I clarify? Like, financial world means so many things to so many people. Like, I'm not helping people do their taxes or investments. Like, we're talking like business capital. We're talking about access to capital. We're talking about the 85% of businesses in America that like you work with, that we all work with. Those people get loans, and that's the jam, man. I love. Why
don't you take 60 seconds and tell the world who you are and exactly what you do,
Okay.
and we'll clarify even deeper from there.
We're here to clarify. So, evening, everybody. This is a studio. This is a proper studio, man.
It is.
This is
proper.
Awesome. So, my name is Dan Rogers. I am a lifelong salesperson, and I'm presently I sell money. I sell money specifically to business owners.
What a fantastic job.
It is
I
awesome.
sell money.
I sell money. And I work with business owners who typically cannot get a business loan from their own bank. There's about 15 reasons why people can't get a loan from their own bank. And it doesn't mean that they're bad people, but
One of them is we're stupid.
It actually shows up in other areas. We don't call it stupid, but there's a scoring thing, yeah. But it shouldn't be as difficult as it is. Banks make it really hard. Business owners make it really hard on themselves. And I kind of use a problem-solving mindset to figure out like what's available for people in the world of money. And I watch people grow their businesses and make less mistakes and do it a little bit easier. And hopefully they start, getting a loan to buy a building to run their restaurant, Charlie. But yeah, can I tell them how we met?
We will talk more about me needing money.
Okay, fair enough.
Later.
So,
but yes,
this is
please
a story that I think everybody needs to know. So I am from the left coast. I'm not a native Tennessean. And when my family moved here 4.5 years ago now, we went to this, we're in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and we went to this really, really cool place called Cannonsburg Village. And if you don't know about Murfreesboro or Cannonsburg Village, it's like a quaint old, 1800s blacksmith and horseshoes and cedar wood logs. And there's, food trucks and stuff like that. And there's a food truck. And we bought some brisket. And we have like 2 bites of this brisket.
Story?
No, this is a true story.
It is a true story. Yeah.
And I said to my wife, I'm like, have you ever had brisket this good? She's like, I have never even had brisket anywhere near this good ever in my life. And so I walked back over to Charlie. I was like, hey, man, I want to just tell you that your brisket's probably the best I've ever had. Can you tell me what the secret is? And he's like, and he just starts laughing in my face. He's like, no, man, I bought all this truck. I can't tell you the secret. But from then
I'll tell you now.
Yeah, but it's the paper. You have to put the paper on. But I asked him about his business. What are your goals? What are your challenges? Like, well, I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to get another location. I was like, interesting.
That's what I do.
That's actually what I help people to do. And so I've known Charlie for almost 4 years now, and been talking about capital for a long time. And he's growing. And he thought he was going to be in the restaurant business, but now he's in the damn podcast business. What's up with that, bro?
Yeah, we have media company, restaurant, looking at location number 2, possibly location number 3 as well next year. Trent has a sign up. You can't see it, but it says, what 100 million? Isn't that what it says?
Why not us? Why not now?
Why not us? Why not now? And I actually talked about it today on a show that I was on. And 2025 for me is going to be all about purpose driven movement, and stop. Oh, excuse me. Stop driving the bus to nowhere, and start driving the bus where I want it to go. Right. And I want it to go somewhere where it's going to be a very large building with wonderful things going on inside of it. And
that's awesome.
Multiple locations. And then we're going to continue to grow this podcast. And we have some things coming up in the future that we can't quite announce yet, but pretty soon we're going to be announcing some pretty cool things that we've been working on. It's going to elevate the show a little bit more, and Trent and I have been working on some stuff behind the scenes as well to kind of elevate this, and we're going to have more than just restaurateurs, and that's why we have the money guy.
So it's interesting
on the
that
show
you say
today.
Purpose though. So in my household, I've got 3 teenage kids, and we talk about the importance of purpose. If you lead the conversation, if you led that conversation with, you know what, my 2025 is going to be the year where I get $1 million, $5 million, $80 million. I don't think anybody cares. But if you say, you know what, we're going to do some purpose-driven stuff, we're going to be doing this for reasons other than financial gains, people will lean into that conversation, because like my kids are on teams, and the point of the team is not for the team championship, it's the mutual purpose. If you're there with other people going in the same direction, that's where you get like disciples, evangelists, like you get people who are talking about you well when you're not around. So that's a good stuff.
Well, look, we started this, and I've told you this before. I've told Derry as well. We started this to be way more than just barbecue, right? This is Single Tree Barbecue, Single Tree Nation. This whole brand is way more about legacy and the impact that we had on people's lives and in our community than it ever will be about financial gain. Yeah. You can go earn $1 every day and not make the world a better place, right?
It's interesting that you're using barbecue as the focus. I mean, think about our history. Barbecue. What happens when you barbecue? You got to sit there and wait, and you're usually waiting with somebody else who's also looking at the same purpose. But barbecue is kind of like the modern day coffee shop. It brings people together, and what are you going to do? You can either sit there and stare at each other, or you can talk.
Well, a lot of it. I grew up around fires.
I love fire.
That's where I grew up, was sitting by a fire, smoking a cigar, drinking a cold beer or some bourbon or whatever. Well, I wasn't. No.
I was gonna say you grew up smoking cigars and drinking bourbon and beer. Like that's.
Man, I love Tennessee, right?
Great parenting. Pappy, you did it right. That's why my hair's so gray already.
You got 20 years on everybody else.
Yeah. I'm way ahead. But just sitting around that fire and having conversations, telling stories, and learning how, and thinking that we were conquering the world's problems, whether we were making an impact or not, who knows? But what I do know is that impacted my life to the point to where I want my kids and my grandkids to look at me one day and go, I hope I'm half the man he is. And if I do that, if any of my kids want to grow up and emulate me, then I feel like I've done my job.
That's awesome. I heard something the other day that is kind of tying into that. Fathers are the only people in the world who want their kids to be better than them. Mm-hmm. And no, I mean, like your dad is like that's if that's not the beacon, the source, and the compass, and the North Star, like if that's not the person, like if I could only be half of them, and the father's looking back at the child and saying, man, I wish they were twice. If they can be twice, that would be awesome. And so these total distorted versions of like what the relationship is, that's cool. I like it.
Yeah. It's what do they say that the poor man makes a wealthy child, the wealthy child makes a poor man, right? Because the guy that had to work and grind and bleed and sweat and do everything he could to just put food on the table taught children how to be successful and work hard, right? So they were successful, they worked hard, they grew up to be great men. And then those men wanted their kids to not have to do that because they had to do it, right? It's cyclical.
Yeah, but giving your kids, and y'all can't see it on the camera, but I've got one of my children in the studio behind me right now. Giving your kids the life that you didn't have, or an easy life, I don't think that's the thing. I think giving your kid a life that is appropriately difficult, where they have to do chores. There's all kinds of data on that. You have to make them work for it, make them pay for things. It's the silver platter. That is not the way. It has got to be paper plates, and you have to work hard.
My dad gave me everything that I needed.
Yeah, fair.
Not everything I wanted.
Yeah, absolutely.
But everything that I needed. I had a house. I had nice clothes. Right, I didn't have shoes with holes in them. Right, I didn't freeze in the winter. I had a coat. We had food on the table. Gave me the ability to go get a job. Right, I had everything I needed. Excuse me. Didn't have everything I wanted. I have found, and we've talked about this many, many times before, in today's society, I feel like a lot of parents in our age brackets have given their kids everything they've wanted because they could, and it's hurt us as a society, right? We've taken a step back as a society because kids overall aren't working as hard as they did when we were kids.
I agree.
Right? They're not doing what they have to do.
I will say, though, the flip side of that is the kids who are willing to put in that effort, and the kids who have seen that or have that quote unquote work ethic, whatever. Those kids are the ones that I see who are just like, literally, it's like they're on the launch pad about to take off because they've got the drive, they've got the desire to learn. They understand that the reward comes with the work and the risk, not just the sitting and waiting. And I tell my personal children all the time, look at your competition, and the pool's not very deep, right? Like, just go make a splash, and you will outwork so many folks so much faster, and that puts you ahead. And just because, like I said, I've tried to think that I give my kids what they need, but that silver platter, I giggled because you said make them pay for things. And my daughter, she recently helped out with the dental bill, and was not a fan.
Yeah,
and
I'm a fan of you actually now.
And I was talking about my barber. He goes, "Why do you make her pay the whole thing?" I was like, "Hang on, it's a part-time job, And, But that exact thing. And there was some pushback there. I said, "No, your wheels don't need to spin anymore. You need to realize where some things are going forward." And this, you went and got a puppy. I don't know what that came. I was like, "Sis, what are you doing?"
Where'd that come from?
Right, but so I guess you had more money than I thought. But look, that thing of those kids are having that ability to work, and just that. I don't even say I don't like I like the term work ethic. I don't like the term work ethic, if that makes sense, because it's not just about the I'm willing to work. It's about purposeful work. Yeah. It's about I'm not going to do just enough to finish, just enough to get by. I'm trying to, let's get here. Where am I going? And it goes to the purpose of what your work is. And
well, some of the things I think we haven't done a good job of teaching kids in general is, there's we were talking about purpose, right? Go mow the yard with a purpose. And the purpose is to make your house look better, not just to kill the weeds, right? And I got done mowing my yard last week, and I'm standing out front of my house, and I'm just kind of looking at it, admiring it, right? Going, looks pretty good. Feel proud about that. Today, how many can you say would mow the yard and go, ooh, that looks pretty good, and feel proud that they did something and accomplished something to the best of their abilities?
Well, I'm going to say I think the ones that do that are the ones that see their their role model or whoever that does do that. So the staying in that yard motif, a couple of years ago, my son, I expected him to mow, not every time. The rule was at least every other time. I expect you to help out, do your part, whatever there.
Yeah.
And there was one night I was like, he ain't gonna get done. Like, there's no way. It's getting too dark too fast, whatever. He goes, and unbeknownst to me, little push mower that he had bought had a headlight on it.
That's fantastic.
And he goes out. Now, his lines weren't quite as straight as they would have been in full daytime.
Job is done.
But the job was done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a certain part of me that next morning I thought, it still dang looks good. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it was just that. Yeah. And boy got it done. He goes, "You fine?" I said, "I'm fine. You did the job. Like, I'm not going to sit there and." So, yeah. But that purpose, though, I think. Do you see a hey, that does look good. I've got that job done. Then they're going to emulate that. Yeah. And if they see you just out there ho humming, I got to get it done. Well, I'm just going to do it to get it done, and just that's.
I think the little things like that, because look. Not everybody in the world enjoys mowing grass like I do. I enjoy it.
Right.
I don't have the time to do it like I would like to. I would like to have my yard looking like a golf course, but I just don't have the time to do that.
I think there comes a certain sense of taking pride in your work, though.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's not the yard. It's just the pride of doing it. Right. It's when you sit down and whether it's cooking a brisket or mowing a yard or getting somebody a loan or whatever it is, it's the pride in making sure that it was done right.
Yeah.
And when it's done right, great things happen. Mm-hmm. And you start doing those little things add up to big things and make things a lot easier.
And there's also there's like an elegance factor, a story factor. Mm-hmm. We talked earlier about like words matter. Mm-hmm. The fact that, how old's your son?
20.
Okay. The fact that your son, he was probably not 20 when he put the headlight.
17 or 18, okay. Yeah.
The fact that your son said, I can do this job now under adverse conditions with a little bit of grit, and have tomorrow off, or I can not do it now and come back and tomorrow I got to dedicate some time to solve problem. Problem is can't see, solve problem with light. It actually creates a really, really good story.
Right.
And so like the Single Tree brand, it's a darn good story. Being teaching construction to kids these days, it's a darn. I'm sure you have a couple good stories, like the story. So I find that like barbecue. We're getting back to this. We're going to try and when we talking about barbecue, we're talking like even in this circle of podcast, we are a conversational species. We've been doing it for 1 million years. We've been doing podcasts for 1 million years. So just only been recorded for like the last 11. People have been getting around, sharing information with the tribe, one-on-one, one-on-three, around a group, around some big animal that somebody killed the day before. So, but that's fun. That the story of your son is freaking awesome.
It's great.
Yeah.
I full well expected him because I said, where's he going to go with this? I'm thinking he's going to strap a cell phone to the front of it, bungee cord or, flashlight on the head.
Hey, little quick fact,
button.
Just to throw in here. You were talking about podcast and how short term it's been that we've started this, really. Yeah. If you get 20 downloads a week, which we get more than that.
Right.
You're in the top 50% of all podcasts.
That's crazy.
Really?
So that tells me that there's so many podcasts that get like 1 or 2, and there's some that get 100 million. Like if you just do if you show up consistently and have a story that is actually something that is engaging to more than just a few people, then people will download and listen.
Trent, can we start a fire here next week? Sit around the campfire?
No.
Can I bring in a dead animal and have us talking?
We can do it outside.
we can bring in a pig.
That's right.
Butcher it
Like
right
a suckling pig, just all that already hit the barbecue. Instead of beer, we're just carving off little pieces.
Yeah. Bring in a couple of briskets and teach you how to trim them.
Hey.
Want to have a brisket class?
There's people get paid for that. Don't give it away for free.
You should do a master
If you want to
class.
do what I do, come on in.
I'm just saying that I can't remember his name, but that one dude has got the master class, literally all about brisket. And
Aaron Franklin.
Yeah, Franklin's barbecue, yeah. And I've seen bits and pieces of it, and I'm like, it's a legit deal. So
It's worth the price of admission.
I assume so. Yeah. I mean, he's sold more than one, so
He sells about 100 and I think it's 120 a day.
brisket.
Briskets.
Wow.
whole briskets.
Yeah.
Not plates.
How big's a smoker?
He has 4, I believe.
Or like the size of yours? Mm-hmm. That's legit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Boy,
Yeah.
his
Call it convoy.
yeah, like his wood bill.
That's
God
just
dang.
that's just for his brisket.
Okay.
That's not all of the stuff he smokes. That's
Is it
just
good?
for his brisket. Aaron Franklin is probably one of the best brisket smokers in the world.
Okay. So like coming from you, I think I got to go eat at this guy's place. Like,
Aaron knows how to cook.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And you know him?
I have met him a couple of times. I've gotten to cook with him. He's extremely intelligent.
Okay.
The guy knows more. He's probably forgotten more about the science of
scientist.
cooking than I'll ever know.
What's happening at the chemical molecular level?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
he
he's
probably
extremely
did
smart.
well in organic chemistry. And
Yeah, very much so. He builds pits, like he knows the engineering of them and how the air flows through the smoker and where to put the stack and how it's supposed to be. I mean, he's
So there's a term that I lovingly call people. Think about anything that you've ever had somebody do where it's to excess. I'm not saying like vice habits. I'm talking about the person who golfs 4 days a week, the guy who goes kite surfing on every one of his vacations, the guy who collects baseball cards and he's got like a gigantic room.
Yeah.
They're dorks.
Yeah.
Like you might be a barbecue dork.
I am.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
sales dork.
No question.
I've got 10,000 hours of sales coaching training, and it's interesting when you find somebody who really is in their element of excellence. You're like, they did something that I'm not willing to do. Like they put in the time on kite surfing or golf or construction or whatever it is, rafters. Yeah, I'm not.
Well,
I'm
but
not
that's
there.
that's the difference between an amateur and a professional,
Oh yeah.
right?
They're
You know,
into it.
An amateur practices to get it right. A professional practices to not get it wrong.
Yeah, I've heard that before. That's
Right.
good.
We do it to where
I like that.
we
I've
don't.
never heard that spin.
Oh,
on it.
it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We do it to where we don't fail, because if I fail, my business fails.
Yeah.
Right. And I can't afford that luxury.
And I don't think you're going to get sunk on one bad brisket, but you can't have a bad month, a bad brisket. Like you can't have a month where you're phoning it in for a month.
I don't think it's a bad brisket or a bad month. I think it's expectation, and if my expectation is that it's okay for me to have a bad brisket, then I failed.
Oh, fair.
If my expectation is there's never anything that leaves my kitchen that's not perfect, that's my expectation, right? It's we will provide the perfect plate of barbecue to every guest that walks in my restaurant. If that's my expectation, then we're probably going to hit the excellent level, right?
That's the, you ever heard of the book Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink? Yeah. It's that my life changed when I took 100% accountability for things. If the lightning struck the tree that fried my hair, I got to be responsible for where I stand. Like it's an act of nature. If you realize that you are in control of yourself, even around acts of nature, you're never, and I tell this to my kids, I tell this to my clients, you can either be a feather in the wind, going wherever the wind takes you, or you can be in a sailboat. Your sail might be down, your rudder might be broken, your compass might be hidden, but are you a sailor and all you have to do is raise your sail, tighten your rudder, and get your compass out, or are you actually a feather? Like I'm always a sailor. Like I'm always going to be in a boat with the ability to at least get away from the storm or steer left or right. You have a choice. Every single brisket doesn't have to go out. Mm-hmm. You can shut it like, hey, something's off today, and we're going to shut it down. Like that is completely your thing.
And I've done it before. I've thrown them away, and my business partners looked at me and gone, "What are you doing,
dude? You have my cell phone. Like, just text me. I'll be like, a bad brisket is still a fine brisket for me.
No,
right?
No, I can't do it.
Right, so hey, I got to
it.
tell you, one of your biggest fans in the world around brisket is actually my daughter Chloe. She loves your
I love
brisket.
it.
So yeah,
Thank you.
Anyway, yeah, she loves it. So
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Look, I was on speaking to that is one of the shows I was on today. We were talking about something, and one of the gentlemen that was on the show made a statement, and it said, "When I try, I fail. When I'm myself, I succeed." And he was talking about always being authentic and being yourself, and never wavering from that, right? And for me, if it's not perfect, I can't serve it, right? That's just who I am. It's not you talk about good, bad, and the other, right? And if I allow my expectations to drop, I don't feel like I'm successful.
I've heard of that also called, you have North Star is kind of general, but you have a par. You golf, right? Mm-hmm. So you have a par. You have your 72. I've never sniffed 72. Just going to throw it out there. But 72 is not. It's not the expectation. It is the direction. It's Kaizen, which is the Japanese word for constant improvement. If you're always aiming for 72, that is the expectation, that you're at least aiming for 72. Sometimes you get 73. Sometimes you get 74. I might be lucky to break 90. But the point is, like, you have this internal compass towards 72, towards the North Star, towards Kaizen, which is probably why you're blowing up. Can we talk about how good your business is going right now? Like, you're killing it.
We're
man.
doing okay.
Yeah, you're doing okay.
We're doing okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's I told somebody today, it's the hardest thing I've ever done.
Really?
Hands down, no questions asked.
Well, it's been hard though.
Honestly, it's looking in the mirror every morning. That's the hard
Was
thing.
access to capital a problem?
Look, I'm a small business owner. Money is always
Yeah,
right.
but no, seriously,
You know,
like,
I had a guy call me a couple weeks ago, and I don't know how he got my cell phone, but he got my cell phone. Which, I mean, it's fine. I don't hide it. But he says, "Hey, Charlie, how you doing?"
I hate that question, by the way.
I'm good. Not that you care, but I'm good.
He doesn't care.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And I said, "What can I do for you?" And he didn't call a restaurant. He didn't email me. He called my cell. All right. Hey, I see how you guys are doing some really cool stuff over there at Single Tree, and you got one store, and he had done his research. He knew things that he had to look up. Oh yeah, we're doing all right. What can I do for you? Would you be interested in in talking to me about some capital? You need some money? Told him the same thing. I'm a small business owner, man. We always need money. Yeah. It's whether we're doing good, great, or bad. We need money. It's what we do.
Yeah.
You're when you get out of small business and go into the next level, then money stops being such a priority. But when you're 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 units, money's always needed.
But in the sales world, and specifically around capital, that is a very, very weak leading question.
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah,
I told him, thank you, I'm good.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
When I need money, I know I got people's phone numbers to call.
All right, so let's roll back. There you are, Charlie, 4 years ago when I first meet you, and
Yeah.
you were grinding, dude. I could you.
Oh, we were grinding a little bit.
So, tell me about your experience over the last couple of years. Like, what's been the most difficult thing for you as a business owner?
It's honestly looking in the mirror every morning.
Okay.
Seriously, it really is.
Another brisket, another 50 briskets. Do them right. Do them right. Do them right.
It's no. The first year, about the time that I met you,
Okay.
I had an individual approach me, wanted to invest in the company.
Okay.
And that didn't pan out.
Okay.
Not for anything against him or anything negative. It just wasn't the right time, right place, right fit. Because of that interaction and transaction of the deal that we were trying to put together, I kind of took my eye off the ball. So that winter, I think you actually came over to Kroger one day when I was parked in the parking lot with Brandon Dingman from Middle Ground.
Yeah, and I think that the facial expression at the time, and I read people fairly well. You're probably like, "What the hell am I doing in the fucking the Kroger parking lot?"
Yeah. Freezing my tail off is what I was doing.
Yeah.
It was. I didn't have any events. Kroger was kind enough to let me park there. And it was really, really tough. And waking up every day after losing your job a couple of months, well, I guess at that point it'd been about a year, a year prior, and going, am I going to be able to pay my light bill?
Yeah.
And am I going to be able to get the kids something for Christmas? Right? What are we going to do? Am I going to be able to get my wife something? How are we going to pay, this, that, and the other, the insurance, whatever, mortgage. And getting up every day, putting a smile on your face and going, I'm kicking ass.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
There is no question. Sometimes takes more effort than people really think. When you don't have a safety net, when there is no fucking plan B, plan A is all you got.
Yeah.
And you are plan A.
Yeah.
Okay.
You ever had one of those days where you wake up, you're like, it's 5 o'clock. I wish there could be 30 hours in today because I need 30 hours today.
Well, I still say that pretty much every day. It's but what's funny, and that's why 2025 is going to be so much about purpose for me, because I waste so many hours throughout the day and it's not waste. That's a poor choice of words. I spend a lot of my time building community. So I spend a lot of my time talking to people and helping others, which is fine and an amazing thing. And I absolutely love doing it. I love people coming into my restaurant and asking me how to work on their business and, just random people and asking for donations and whatever. And it doesn't really matter. I love talking to the people in my community.
Yep.
But for me to grow the brand and to do what the brand is going to do, I can't spend 6 hours of my day, 4 hours of my day sitting in a restaurant talking to people.
Yeah.
So it has to be way more purpose driven.
So would you have done it slightly different then? Like if you were to roll back time to be in that, if you were to not have gone down the road of the investor, to be giving away less of your fun intellectual property, would you be in a different place or would you be right in the exact same spot right now?
I think the only change that I would have made, there was a time early on in my conversation with that initial investor, or second investor, I probably would have said, let's pause for a second.
Okay.
I have things I have to do for my business. I put too much trust in people sometimes.
Sure.
And I trusted that the deal was going to be what we originally spoke about. And I thought that was going to be the route we went. I probably would have had, 2-3 locations already.
Okay.
But I wouldn't own my company.
Interesting.
So I chose the route of rewinding all of that and going back to the day that my wife looked at me and said, depend on yourself and not anybody else, and do what you love to do, and we'll be fine.
Yep. That's it. In our household, we've got the 3 kids, my wife and I, we call it the Rogers Family 5. And my wife and I, we've had to hunker down, man. Chloe knows a little bit, but we have been poor, like really poor. And in my wife and I, we understand that it's us against the world. Mm-hmm. And when there's all the quotes like nobody's going to come to save you. They might lend you $20. They might give you an hour of their time, but nobody's coming to save you. No, like they might tell you where the life raft is, but they're not going to like build you a life raft, drive the boat out to where you are in the ocean and give you the life raft. You got to be swimming towards shore. And hard.
Yeah. Well, it's the sign on the wall, right? $100 million. Why not us? Why not now?
Yeah.
Great. That's an amazing sign. It's an amazing quote. It's amazing thought, right? We can all say that right now and mean it. But what do we get up from this table and go do about it?
It's a tough one.
Right?
My wife's got a thing. She's always reminded me, you got to assist in your own rescue. Like
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
it's awesome that you get a handout or a helping, like, whatever the encouragement, you've got to assist in your own rescue.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can't just like wave your hands and hope that the lifeguard comes and gets you. Like you got to swim towards shore. You've got to be making the effort. You got to go like, if I want 100 million, let's go get the first million, or let's go get the first 100,000, to get to that direction, not just like, hey, y'all got some spare change? Like, I mean, that just, you've got to do that effort.
Isn't there that biblical saying? It's not a Bible thing, but the guy is in the ocean and he's praying to God, and then God help me, and a plane comes by, and the plane's buzzing him, and he's like, man, this plane is really distracting me, and then a boat comes by, and the guy they're whistling and they're honking, and these boat people, they're distracting me, and he dies.
Right.
And he says, God, why didn't you save me? He's like, bro, I sent you a plane and a boat, and there was a submarine underneath you. You didn't even you got to help yourself, man.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I love it.
So
It's outstanding.
yeah,
So tell us how did Dan, the money man, get into banking, financial?
yeah, that's the question that like so many people will ask of everybody. I wanted to be a police officer. I was in the process to get hired with at one of the most dangerous in one of the most dangerous cities in the United States, in the Bay Area. I'll take 45 seconds to tell a true story, a funny story, I think. So I'm dropping off some background paperwork in the city. I won't name the city, but because it's not really that important, but it's really dangerous. And we go into the parking lot. So we go into the parking lot. I'm just barely married to my wife. Maybe we're even engaged. We're not even married yet. Or we go to the police department, and I back my truck up into the parking stall in the police department parking lot. And my wife, I've never done that. She's like, "What are you doing? Why are we backing into the parking space?" Because we're on our way up to our friends in Sacramento. I was like, "Hey, I need to drop off this paperwork. It's going to be like 15, 20 minutes. I need you to get in the driver's seat and just keep the car running." She's like, "Are you robbing the police department? Why am I doing this?" And I said, "No."
Far from being robbed.
I said, if anybody at all comes up to the car, unless they're a police officer, I need you to put it in drive and just take off. She's like, "Why?" My wife is from like a nice place in the Bay Area, and she had never really experienced this, because it's really freaking dangerous here. And she's like, "Oh my God, are you serious?" I was like, "Just drive away. Call me later. We'll figure it out." So I go into the police department and I do my thing, and I drop off my paperwork, and my then girlfriend, I get back in the car and we take off. Nothing happened. And she's like, "I had some time to think about it, and I really don't know if I can date somebody who's a police officer in a town that's so dangerous you can't even park in the police department parking lot." And she's like, "Yeah, I really don't know if I can date somebody." And I changed my entire life. Like, how did I become where I'm now? I changed it for a girl, man. I'm still married to her, so it worked out well.
Yeah, it worked for you.
So I had a chance to be a cop. And this is probably 2003, 2004, or stay in sales. And I've been in sales, start off selling cars, copiers, mortgages, homes. I've sold like everything. I've sold widgets and huge technology and copiers and bigger copiers and cars and all kinds of stuff. So how I got to where I am right now, it's a shorter, not so funny story. I was fired from a job for selling too much, and I was making so much money based on my comp plan, the company was an up-and-coming company. They actually couldn't afford me anymore, and the president fired me. And I later learned 2.5 years later, because we're still friends, he's like, "I fired you because we weren't going to make payroll if I paid you your commission." Like, I went from like the tiny, tiny, tiny number to a gigantic number. And so I found myself on the street with no job. I wasn't expecting it. And I got into brokering business loans because I was talking to banks at the time. And I was connecting people to capital, and I didn't even know that loan brokering was a thing. Like where you're the middleman between the bank or the capital provider and the business owner who can't get it. And I did that for 5 years. I had a sales coaching company at the same time, telling people how to be more compelling with their words, because you know what? Them words matter. And so when people were paying me to tell them what to say, like I would tell them what to say to be more compelling while giving them capital. And then COVID came along, totally annihilated both of my sales coaching business and my loan business. And I found myself working at Safeway in my own neighborhood. And my friends would come in and they'd say, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Yeah, I was running my company. Everything was fine. And I have no clients. I have no money." These are my friends, like buying groceries as I'm poop, poop, poop. And they're like, "That's badass, bro." I was so ashamed. Like I can't even tell you the level of shame to be working at Safeway, happy to work there. A bunch of funny stories. I worked at Safeway for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then I got a job at the SBA, directly at the federal government. This is like peak freaking COVID, like 2020, April 2020. People are like looting 7-Elevens. Like it is like they're...
It's not good.
Yeah, and I'm working for the federal government in a 4,000 square foot office, all by myself, because all of the other chicken shits who worked for the federal government are like, "Oh, this is like party time. I'm going to go home and I'm going to work from home." I'm in this office building 6 days a week, 12 to 15 hours a day on like double time. Y'all paid my rent and my home mortgage for a long... Thank you all the taxpayers out there who paid me handsomely to work for the SBA. But...
It's outstanding.
Yeah. So and then 10 months later, my boss, who got me the job, who I'm friends with, I love her. Shout out to Heather. You're awesome. She got me the job. She fast tracked me, and she came to me and she says, "Hey, I love you, Dan, and I got to fire you. You have 45 days to go get a job because you're the worst government employee I've ever had in my entire 20 years."
Because you were productive.
So I was actually trying, that's not true. I was trying to help every single person I talked to, and I was trying to fix the system. Neither of those anybody wants.
No.
And so I got fired.
No.
And she's like, "Hey, you need to get out of here or you're going to blow your brains out. Go get a job in lending. Call everybody you know in lending." Because I was a loan broker. I already had all these connections. I get a job with this company, this SBA lender out in California. Shout out Todd. You're awesome. Todd hired me. I submitted a little message request on their website. "If you think that you'd be a good fit for this company, message us and we'll figure it out." I was like, "I'm going to get fired in 40 days. I'm really, really good in sales and I work at the SBA and I think I want to get into SBA lending." Send. No joke. 6 minutes later, Todd calls me up and says, "Hey, how's it going? This is Todd. I work for this company." I was like, "I know who you are. What's going on, man?" I was like, "I need a job." And because I'm going to get fired from the SBA in about 40 days, he's like, "Can you sell?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I can sell really good."
I can sell so good the SBA doesn't want me around.
And he's like, in like 7 minutes on the phone call with this guy who runs this huge company, he's like, "Well, shit, man, I think I want to hire you. I think I want to go on a limb for you." I was like, "I'm really not good at I don't do SBA loans here at the SBA. I do like other things." He's like, "We'll teach you how to do all that stuff." And so I got hired in like 6 minutes, had to go through all the stuff. I was working at that company for 18 months and then I got recruited to work for the company that I'm at now, another SBA lender. And they said, "Hey, how are you with SBA loans?" I was like, "Finding them, amazing. Processing them, working on it." They're like, my company that I'm at now that I love, and they tolerate me and they let me do my thing. And I'm 48 years old and I just had the best year of my life. Paid off my business loan and all
Nice.
my kids do all the things that they want to do. And we're going to California for a few weeks for Christmas. And it's not easy, running, doing stuff. And so that's how I got here. In the process, I was constantly learning, constantly writing notes, constantly keeping track of what would be the process that I would do different if I was to do it different, like a little bit of Kaizen. And so that's how I got to the SBA lender that I'm at right now. And I still have this belief that you can sell your way out of most problems. And if you can't sell your way out of most problems, then maybe you can borrow your way out of most problems. And by overlapping those two things, you can either sell or borrow your way out of almost any problem. And so my clients that come to me, and we'll sometimes talk for an hour, 2 hours about the loan that they think that they need. And I'll be on their website while we're talking. I'll be on their LinkedIn page and I'll look at their stuff. And I'm like, can I just give you like an hour and like tell you where your words are terrible? Can I help you sell more, and maybe that will fix you long term? Like, oh my God, nobody's ever said that to me in my life. So I blend this sales coaching, this mindset with how can I get this person capital from the 15 or 16 different sources of capital in the world, and SBA lending is just one. So now I've been on. I'm sorry, Charlie. You're not my first podcast.
Oh my goodness.
So I've been on a few podcasts and I talk about access to capital, and I teach people how to find SBA loans, to broker SBA loans. And I love my job so much. And it's because I get to be inside somebody's business for 45 days or 3 years. I've got a guy, 3.5 years. I'm still working with him. I can hear about what they're going through. I can work with them. I can see them getting better, but I don't have to be in their break room with the person who they work with who microwaves fish. Like, I don't have to be inside their business, like working at that manufacturer or at that daycare or whatever it is. So like, that's the long answer. It's got some points to it, but now, like you, like purpose driven, like my marketing plan is educate people on what their available options are. I'm not the only option in the world. And when I find myself educating people and telling them that I'm not the source for them, they start telling me, no, like, seriously, how can I work with you? I was like, well, no, I don't think that I'm the best thing for you. I think this is going to be better. Yeah, that's fine, but I really want to work with you. And so, like you, man, if you teach people to brisket and you teach people how to capital, they appreciate that stuff. And ways to make it worth your while.
Yeah. We somebody said on a show not too long ago that if you want to get a customer, invite them on your podcast.
Yeah, that's good. And customer for life, by like, yeah. How can I ever buy anybody else's brisket? Well, aside from this guy who's a stud, Aaron Franklin, like I gotta.
Yeah, you need to try it. Aaron's pretty stellar.
So I have a question for you. So you're in construction teaching, which is like Mike Rowe was not wrong. He was 100% right. You are in the battleground of getting people into the trades.
Correct.
You spent a past lifetime in construction?
I spent enough time.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in construction since the summer I turned 16. Damn. So we're coming up on,
yeah. Go ahead and say that number out loud.
Coming up on 30 years now. God, dog. Anyway, yeah, 28. Yeah. Anyway, that hurts more than I thought it would. And kind of finessed my way through different things, wound up in working for a guy just doing odd and end remodeling, side job stuff, whatever. Ran across a guy one time who did some cabinetry for us. I was like, hey, no, he came to me, he goes, I knew your grandfather. If you ever need a job, you call me.
That's cool.
And I was like, appreciate it. We're doing pretty good. Yeah. That business went on for about 6 more months. And I called that guy up. I said, hey, I need that job. Yeah. He said, not a problem. Come on. Yeah. Funny enough, it was in this building that we're currently in.
No.
I kid you not. It was a cabinet shop at the time. And I learned cabinetry. Okay. I had done the construction side of things, but now I'm focused in on like woodwork, right? Interior woodwork. I worked for him about a year. I was like, can't do this anymore. I need something bigger. And a buddy of mine said, hey, I'm leaving the cabinet shop I'm at. Come over here. Okay. Went over there, walked in, immediately a $2.50 raise. And in what's 23 years ago now, in 2001, that blew my mind.
That's 5,000 a year.
I was like, holy cow. Yeah. Like rent just became affordable. Right. And like, and so I did that for almost 10 years, and I backdoored my way into teaching.
Dude,
And
got that government job is what you did. Good
well,
job. Congratulations.
I didn't mean to though.
Yeah, sure.
No, seriously. So it works out. My brother was the teacher.
Really?
He takes a job teaching overseas with the military.
That's fantastic.
And better government job is what he just upped the levels what he did.
He sure did.
He goes to Germany.
Yeah.
I go interview, and because I had enough occupational time, they said, "Come on, we'll get your teaching stuff taken care of." I spent 3 years, getting those hours in, whatever, as I was still teaching.
Yeah.
And that was 13 years ago.
That's awesome.
And I love it. I love seeing the kids who don't know quite where they want to go, and then they zero in. My favorite is when you get a kid who thinks he's just. I had a kid tell me that, he goes, "I took construction because I heard it was easy." I was like, "That's fine. You no longer get to take my class but my class is easy."
Yeah.
Because they don't realize that roof pitch is the slope intercept for them. They don't get that rise over run is what I do, a 412 pitch, and that you're all of a sudden laying out a roof, and it's that real world application.
Oh, by the way, your P&L, that's finance. By the way, when you sell the job, that's communications.
All this.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden they see it. And then I had a kid a few years ago, as more 6 or 7 years ago now. I saw him in Home Depot one day. Say hello to him. He comes up. He goes, "I got to tell you." He goes, "You changed my life, and I didn't know it."
That's fantastic.
And what he wound up doing, he went to MTSU for their construction program.
Which is very good.
Phenomenal for him. He gets in with a company called Turner Group.
The big
one, Turner
the
Construction.
Turner.
The Turner.
Yeah.
He gets in with them, and he's a newbie on the site, and they're like, "Hey, do this, that, whatever. You probably won't know how to do this." And he had sent me a message, and that was exactly one of the things I taught him. And he goes in, does this whole layout, and the guy goes, "How'd you know that?" He goes, "I learned this in high school," like that kind of thing. And so that advanced him pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And now he does great with them, still with them. He's been with them for years now, right out of MTSU. But it's just one of those things where, and I get kids who just want to take construction because dad has a construction company and that's what I'm going to do. That's fine. But it's a unique perspective on what our high school's big enough. It's a microcosm of society. It's a small city every day. And you see all the this and that, whatever. And the kids who try,
especially if that new zone goes in,
you're gonna hit a hot topic right there. But there's kids, the ones that try who want to get something out of my class, will take it and run with it. And I tell them, I start out every year. First of all, I'm not here to be your friend. I got plenty of friends.
Yeah.
Secondly, even if you don't go into construction, you're going to own a house, and you don't want to pay $125 just for somebody to show up and tell you it was this simple.
Yeah.
Like let's do these things. Let's make it personal. I get some kids who don't, and it's funny because I try to sell them on it, and I'm trying to hey, let's go down this road. Let's do this. And my very first year of teaching, it's probably one of my favorite stories in my teaching career. Young man who he partook of some naturally grown things on a regular basis.
I feel you.
And he finds out that I knew who he was based on some social media posts, and it freaked him out. And he was like, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And so anyhow, it scared him. And I was like, look, that's your world. I don't condone it, but that's your world. You do your thing. He's a senior my first year of teaching. He comes in, and I had tried to get some things, and I bought a tabletop mini lathe. And one of the first things I wanted to teach kids was how to make a writing pen out of wood. Mm-hmm. Just as a unique gift, like, here's some downtime we got, you go make your pen today, that kind of thing. This kid goes and gets a chunk of 2x4, puts it up between the headstock and the tailstock, and I was like, BJ's not his name, but BJ, I was like, that's not. He goes, I just want to practice on this. I was like, give it a whirl then. If you're just going to practice before you mess something up. He takes this 2x4 piece of just chunk and whittles it down to nothing. And I was like, you good? And he goes, yeah. And he goes and gets another one, puts it in there. I said, what are you doing? He goes, I love this. He said, if I had one of these at home, I wouldn't play Xbox. And I was like, gotcha. Like, you're on the hook right now, and you don't know it. Yeah. I hate that you're a senior because I don't get to do this next year, but I got you, right? And so he actually came back and saw me, and he was like, just like, you made a difference. He didn't do construction, which was fine, but he was like, you made a difference there. And at that point, my job became less about construction and more about relationship with kids.
Yeah.
And
so I have this feeling, and I want to see if you can either validate it or kill it. So you have the guy who is 16, learns on his uncle's job, and he learns, pitch and rise and run and what is, like how to frame and do all these things on the job from all the people who've been doing it for like 15 years. And he gets, above and above and above. And like, what is his skill level like at 30? What is his income level like at 30 versus the guy who goes to sophomore year, he starts with a construction class and he realizes this is actually why they say to do this particular thing.
Right.
And so it's like the culinary world. Would you rather a person who's just been cooking their backyard or somebody who's actually got 2 years in a culinary school? Like having those fundamental things, what do you think the finished product, like the people that you put out into the marketplace as construction operators, age for age, year for year, how much better, same, or worse they are than like the guys that
there's, I'm going to tell you my answer, then I'm going to tell you the caveat to that. When you know the why, you can carry that over to just about anything else you want, right? If I know why the structure has to be laid out like this for, weight support, for load bearing, this, that, I can modify things based off that. Now, the caveat there is when that guy goes to work with company and company's been doing it this way for so long, he says, wait, they butt heads because they want to do it their way. We've always done this, which is an awful answer, by the way.
I hate the status quo.
It's such an awful answer. Yeah. We've always done this. There's so many times that I've seen that proven wrong, just flat out. And so they see that guy as a draw. Well, because we're going to either spend too much money on new materials, or we got to teach somebody to learn to do it away, and they don't see that investment. They see it as a cost.
Yeah.
Where if I know that I'm going to save money because my load bearing changed this, and now I can do this quicker and more efficiently with an initial investment. And so there's a caveat there of that old way and set in their ways. Now, year for year, that kid probably goes faster.
No kidding.
And just straight up. Now, it depends on which trade, though, also. You can go right out of high school, and we have a great working relationship with a company here in town. They'll start you out about 17. If you go to one of the trade schools here in town, like TCAT or MTSU, whatever, you're going to come in starting out about 20, 21.
You're talking dollars?
Dollars.
Okay.
Dollars per hour. You're ahead, but that kid that's got at 17, he's already getting a step ahead, and so he's got 2 or 3 years. And so there's that trade-off, and then year for year financially, they get to be about the same point.
Okay.
And so it really comes down to a work application, not a cost.
Yeah, and I think there's also a huge difference when you take somebody who's gone through a construction class in high school, and they say, man, this is the real deal, but I don't think I want to be framing, and I'll just use the example, framing for the rest of my life. I'm going to take this and go over to MTSU and get my construction management degree.
Correct.
So now you're making 54.
Right.
Now you're making 75,
Right.
125.
Right.
You're like, oh my God. But if they didn't have the fundamental principles of rise over run,
Right.
they would have never been able to understand, like when they're the manager, when they're the foreman, they're like, hey man, you're not doing this right and you're causing delays,
Correct.
So it's an interesting thing. Like when you have an educated construction person, you've got a person who is good.
And there were years where I didn't like that the guys that were coming out of MTSU had no background in construction. Yeah. They knew how to do construction, but they had never done construction. Does that make sense?
So Charlie, lieutenant coming out of West Point versus a guy who's been in the field for 7 years.
It's the same principle,
it's the same,
right? You can take, it was one of the things I loved about my LT when I was in, speaking of the military, he knew what he didn't know.
Right.
He was intelligent that way. He didn't tell me how to shoot a gun. He didn't tell me where to run to.
Yeah.
Right. He didn't tell me when to drive up. He knew what he didn't know. He knew that we knew what to do. His job wasn't his job. My LT's job was not to tell me what to do. My LT's job was to put me in the right place for me to go do my job. for me to have the right seat on the bus.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that goes back to what leaders are in general.
Yeah.
If you're a construction guy, a culinary expert, if you're in the financial institution, if you're in military, doesn't really matter. The leadership's number one responsibility is to take their players and put them in the right seat on the bus, put them in the right position for them to be successful. Derry can cook the shit out of a brisket, but if I tell him to come over to the restaurant tomorrow, I need somebody to cook me 12 briskets, he's going to look at me and go, I don't know about that. Right. But I didn't set him up for success.
Yeah.
Right. So as a leader, that would be a really bad thing. Right. But if I call him Wednesday morning next week and say, hey, I need you to lead the podcast, you good with that? He's had enough time in the seat that he can do it. So it's not gonna be a bad show. He's in the right seat on the bus.
Yep.
Right. You have to know your people. And I think the difference, like in your example of construction, the guys that are 16 and they're working for their uncle, or whoever, or their dad or whatever on their out of school time, and they're taking Derry's class, when they graduate high school, those guys are light years ahead
I agree with
of
that.
the kids that come out of high school and go to MTSU and do, concrete management or whatever, construction, whatever over there. And then they spend 4 years getting a degree and not working in the business. And great. Now you're out of high school. You graduated college. You got a bachelor's degree on how to put 2x4s together and make sure they're load bearing. Great. But this 19-year-old kid who just spent 4 years with Mr. Wells and works for his uncle is 10 years ahead of you.
Yeah, and he swings a 29-ounce hammer, and you swing like a 15-ounce Sears claw hammer. Yeah, like it's a completely
And
different
you're
thing.
exhausted after an hour,
Yeah,
and he's
exactly.
looking at you like,
What do you mean
doing?
you're carrying 2 sheets of plywood, 3
Right.
sheets of plywood? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody carrying 3 sheets of plywood. Even in my youngest pride days, I wasn't carrying 3 sheets of plywood.
No.
I got shorter one day. I had to get some plywood at the depot.
Yeah.
And I needed some thick. In fact, I made it for a jump box for my daughter because she's into volleyball. So it's a plyometric box. I was like, I want to make this thing rigid. And so I get a sheet of 3/4 inch plywood. And I was like, I used to be able to like move a piece of ply around.
Yeah.
I get this piece of 3/4 inch plywood. I was like, okay, I got it. And I get over my head. I'm like, click, click, click. And I swear to God, it made me 1/4 inch shorter. It's so heavy.
I had friends of mine. I would go back and work with them in the summers or whatever. They needed a little help, and they're like, "Hey, you losing it, man? You losing your touch." And what I didn't realize was enough time in the classroom. I mean, I'd worked cabinetry for years. Like, I mean, literally a dozen years. That time in the classroom, away from their skill set and how they did it, I had to kind of get back up to speed. And
like
you don't
football
realize
strength,
being that in it, that training, that whatever, nothing changed. I was still going and cutting and doing my thing. It was just, it's almost the physical element of it where you're having to learn how to keep up, your endurance.
Yeah,
that
they
kind of
say
thing.
like football shape, like guys who are like, you need to be like getting tackled to be ready for football.
Right.
And so something as simple as in the construction field, if you take 12 years off, you're going to get a splinter. If you are in the field, the splinter breaks off. It doesn't even penetrate your finger. Like you're a different level of leather on your hands.
Right. And it's funny you say, I've noticed it over the years. I've still got a couple of calluses I keep, but my hands used to be rougher than just, I mean,
Dude, you have
sandpaper.
all your fingers. Nice job. Congratulations.
I've been proud of that one. I've known too many guys.
Hadn't taken a finger off yet.
Listen, man, there was a dude one year. I can't remember his name. I can see his face. Can't remember his name. It just wasn't thinking. Wasn't in a compromised position. Just pushes the wood through and just pushed his thumb right off.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, he picks it up, goes to the doctor, and they're like, well, sorry, you're a smoker. Not going to help. They took a piece of skin, stretched over it, stitched it up. Worst part was he was left-handed.
Yeah.
So his big pastime was Frisbee golf. So he had to learn how to right-hand it or hold it. I don't know what he did, but life changed for him. And now he got fine over the years, but I've always like if these right here anywhere near it, I'm out. I've got one scar right here, and I had a blade break on me one time, and it came out of the and I actually did this, and it hit up here, and I felt something on my neck, and I was like, oh, it's happened. Like, and I was working by myself. It's going down, right? And I get my phone out and I turn my camera on, and nothing's on my face, and something glanced off me, whatever it was, and blood's just pouring out. And I call my son, and I'm like, hey, get over here now. I don't know what we're going to do because we're going to the hospital. I said, no, we're not. Like, it ain't that bad. Like, but I said, take me to grandma's house. So I get to mom's house, and she's like, well, I always knew this day'd come. And she sits down, and she's got her towel and her bowl of peroxide and everything else. And 10 minutes
She
later,
fixed you up, right?
Sure. I mean, everything but the stitch. I didn't get a stitch. Yeah. She took a butterfly, squeezed it together, and I mean, I've got a.
What more do you need?
Yeah.
But I get hit by a router bed at 100 miles an hour, I'll take that. So it's but yeah, I've got them all, and that's important. So
I'm a total pansy, like total, in the garage type of handyman. I've done some things. I've built some extensions on the house and stuff. I did tip this finger in a table saw. It was before I was married. I actually still have the box. I was making this little shadow box for my wife. This is the dumbest thing ever. You've probably seen dumber, but I'm pushing it through. Swear to God, in my brain, I was like, okay, fingers are getting kind of close. Let's get our little push bar. Clink. Oh! Luckily, my finger was at an angle where the blade comes through and just hits the nail down and kind of pushes my finger away. It got me. It got me, but it didn't get me. So, watch out for them blades, folks. They is the real deal.
You got a mac and beans for us?
I do got a mac and beans. All right, so mac and beans is our this or that part of the thing. First of all, you're going to get your plate of barbecue. You're at Single Tree. Are we getting mac and cheese, or are we getting barbecue baked beans?
For me, all day long beans. Like, people can really, really get too artistic with their macaroni. They throw in the Gruyere cheese and all the crazy. Like, I'm not a huge cheese thing, but beans. Like, you can't. It's hard to mess up beans.
All right.
Yeah.
So I did.
Hang on a second. My daughter Chloe is waving at me over here. What are you saying, Chloe?
I agree.
Yeah. My daughter goes with beans as well. All right, fair enough. My wife would go to macaroni and cheese.
Okay. Yeah. So I took a brief look at some of your social media. I didn't do a deep dive, but
are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Serious. Right. Look, I tried to do a little bit of knowing who's walking in the door. Okay. I wrote you down as an avid and prolific user of adjectives. So, did you see what I did there? Avid and prolific.
I did. So I think that's on my
words matter.
Yeah. So I think that might be on my my Instagram handle.
No,
is or LinkedIn.
I went to your Facebook.
So I don't even do a lot of Facebook.
You were like some sort of dad, incredible husband, devoted dad, something like. But the adjectives were on point. Like it was just it's fantastic. But
by the way, you can find me on socials at on LinkedIn, Dan Rogers -CRE. You'll find me right there. So if you want to come out and check me on the socials, there I am. All right, continue, please.
You took an element from me. I saw, and you've mentioned you had a number of hours in various classes and study afterwards of training, if you will.
Yeah.
You're obviously a coach in financial, and given my background, this is more between me and him, but you're welcome to chime in. Teacher or student? Who do you want to be?
Oh, snap. Oh, is that?
So my daughter has to go to volleyball practice, and I'm guessing that was my lovely wife.
I guess it was somebody because she had a panicked look because she started waving.
Yeah.
So that's
hey, Chloe, I'll see you later. Thank you.
There she is. She's picking in. She's out.
Hey, Patty, when you see this this podcast later, I love you so dearly. I'm going to tell how many followers you have?
A lot.
I'm going to tell a lot of followers that Patty Rogers is the shit.
Yeah.
So
I wish that angle was set up and saw that deer in the headlights. She was like, that was great.
Right, we might be able to get that on camera 3. Who knows?
All right. So teacher or student, can one be one without being the other?
Deep dives with Dan Rogers.
So
it's a good one.
Can we extrapolate on this a little bit?
Sure.
Can I get verbose?
Get verbose. See,
I like that.
Words matter.
words matter. The prolific use of adjectives.
So when a student is struggling, it's the teacher's fault. To learn a subject best, you must teach it in order to do it better. So there are times where the student has to be the student and the teacher has to be the teacher, and there are times where you have to be both. I am like, if you see the books that I have, if you know, my kryptonite is, hey, want to learn something new in a 30-minute free podcast? Hell yeah, I do. So I would go with, at this stage of my game, teacher. I coach Little League Baseball. I coach a little bit of high school boys volleyball. I have taught sales to people. I do run a little bit of a team at my company with a bunch of the junior guys who haven't been out in the world. But there's no way you can be a teacher if you're not looking at the textbook the night before to learn, to relearn. Because we know, but we're like, is it like 1/16 or is it 1/9? You're like, if you're going to be a teacher, you have to be looking at your notes
Right.
before you teach. So I think you have, in order to be a teacher, you have to be a student and a teacher. But I think to be a student, I think you can be a student.
So I'm going to take that and put a slight twist on it. Okay. For me, when I am a teacher, I'm learning who my students are. I'm learning to meet them where they are. I'm learning to find where that kid, because ironic story. I had a kid one year, the wheels came off fast one day. High schoolers will talk. They will tell you everything that you want to know or don't want to know without telling you face to face. And they just have this unique, and they think it's all social media. It's all like, no, you don't know anything about me. And then all of a sudden, well, this one kid jumps up one day and he's like, yeah, and he's talking to buddies. I'm not in the conversation. And I don't know how they got on this angle of it, but he's like, yeah, mom one day just finally confessed up that I was supposed to be an abortion. And I was like, hey, hang on.
Either it's a punchline to a great joke that I want to hear the setup to,
or there's a lead in.
It's terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, what gives on that? He goes, we were at dinner one night and mom just kind of threw it out there that I wasn't supposed to be first. And I was just like, you think you know someone and you don't.
Yeah.
Well, and almost I can up you better. Another kid's like, yeah, well, my mom's a meth user. She just kicked me out. And I was like, I have no idea where to go with this. Like, it became a push-pull thing now.
Like, how difficult is your life? Oh, yeah.
But it put me squarely in the student seat for just a moment of I'm learning about these young men right now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what I go out and present to them in the class. I mean, it does, but as long as I've got their back, as long as I'm someone they can trust, as long as I just became a better teacher because now I've learned as a student from my students. Take all this to go around. We have an electrical and plumbing teacher, and his favorite thing to do is take his older guys, say, y'all go teach the younger kids.
Absolutely.
And for a couple of years, I gave him a little pushback on that. I was like, is that really the angle we want to take? He now has his older guys come to my class, and he teaches them, because my first year kids, you can choose which path you want to go in. And he teaches them electrical and plumbing and does the thing. And he has the kids do the whole thing, top to bottom. Here's the tool. Here's the technique. Here's the whatever. Plug it in. Does it work? Man, look at you. And to watch that older kid feel that empowerment, because they just learn self-confidence of, well, I do know this. I didn't really think I knew it. And to that younger kid always hears it differently than he hears it from me. They don't want to hear an old man's voice.
Yeah.
When you hear your peer tell you what's up, man, they're just all like, hey, cool, what's up? And so that was you passed the test, the teacher or the student. There's no wrong answer and there's no right answer. It just, one makes the better the other one.
So what's interesting about, okay, all right, full circle here. So when you're talking about the scene burnt, like you're cooking the animal, you're roasting the coffee, you're having the bourbon, and you're in the situation where are you going to get mad at the kid who's falling asleep in class, or are you going to like, hey man, what's going on? It's like, hey, I had to pull a double shift. My uncle didn't show up I had to be on the construction site last night. You're like, you're 15. Is like, and
And
Yeah.
had a kid one year who was waking up to take care of grandfather's dairy farm.
Yeah.
He had to be in the barn at 3:30.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what he was doing every day first period? He was trying to take a nap.
Yeah.
And it's hard to fault that kid. Like, just, you know.
So when you have the stage, first off, there's nothing like it in the entire world. As a teacher, you have the stage where you got to be on. Imagine you're teaching barbecue to 100 students every single day. You're like, you got to be like not only like yourself, but you got to be the teacher in charge. And I was a professional adventure tour guide for many, many years. So I had to be the entertainer, the steward, and the chief security guy for 11 people from around the world with various levels of English. And when you're on, it's an interesting thing that you can actually vicariously give that power to somebody else. And when you tell a 17-year-old guy like, hey, you're the head boss now, you're boss man, those 4 guys are your responsibility. We've been giving the responsibility of younger men to do dangerous shit for 1,000,000 years. And they have done it, and they do it, and they have done it, and they do it. So when you say, hey man, those 4 guys are in your charge, they cannot lose fingers under your watch. If they smash their finger, I don't care.
Right.
They can't lose fingers. You
Right.
understand the rules.
Right.
Yes. Go teach them how to do that thing. And they're like, absolutely. And the same thing is go kill the wolf. Go take that machine gun bunker. Young men, when you give them power and a little bit of guidance, goddamn,
They go.
that's so
They
awesome.
absolutely go. Have you ever read the book Wild at Heart? John Eldridge?
What's it about?
That.
Okay.
It's a great read.
Okay.
Let me suggest that to you.
Okay, sure.
You too. As fathers, first of all,
Yeah.
but as men,
Okay.
go read Wild at Heart. It's an easy read. It's about 200 pages,
Okay.
but it's not going to break your brain down. It is the essence of his son does a rock climbing thing, takes him on an adventure out west, whatever, and his son comes back and goes, Dad, you see that? And Dad's like, not only saw you do it, you killed it. And that right there just puffed that son up like, watch me go be wild. Watch me be able to take over all the stuff, right? I'm getting goosebumps about it. That's a great read for y'all. It's easy. It's you can find it everywhere. Wild at Heart.
Wild at heart.
Yeah.
Wild at
All
heart.
right, so we got 2 questions. Macaroni, teacher, student. Are we still?
What's
it.
the you got a Friday feel good?
I do.
Oh.
I'm ready. Go wind us up. All right.
Rock us out with a Friday feel good.
Your Friday feel good this week, guys. Be willing to be vulnerable. Someone has probably been where you are. Share, seek wisdom, and remember you are not alone. You know what to do. Find somebody you know. Tell them you love them.
Love it. Love it. Dan, if people want to talk about money, want to learn how to sell, want to find Mr. Dan Rogers,
All right.
how can people find you?
So, easiest place in the world is LinkedIn. I do most of my interactions there. I do most of my own prospecting for my own likely prospects. That was not good grammatical usage right there.
Words matter, Dan.
A woman
Words
is a
matter.
woman, you know. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Dan Rogers, ROGERS -CRE. In fact, if you do the same search inside Google, it'll take you to my LinkedIn page. If you reach out to me on LinkedIn, just say, hey, I heard you on the podcast. That'll be cool. That way I won't block you. I won't think that you're some person from another country. Inside my LinkedIn page, you can find also my contact information, which is my email address and my cell phone. You can email me and I'll email you back. If you want to text me, like just give me some reference points, some contacts, but like just don't call me. I am busy. I probably won't answer it. So, but like we can, if you need to talk sales, I'm happy to shepherd you with some of my time. There's a lot of great sales books. However, can I give them one little word of advice?
Yeah, of course.
If you have if you're in sales, if you speak for a living, if you got to have a conversation in order to get them under contract, if you have to use your voice in order to get people to do what you want to do, whether it's your wife, whether it's students, whether it's your staff, and you're having a hard time with that, and you say to me, Dan, I heard you can tell people what to do and you know how to talk a little bit. What if you say this to me? The conversation is going to end. What's the one thing I can do in sales to be like you? Like, it's not one thing. It's not one thing in construction. It's not one thing in capital. It's not one thing in sales. It's not one thing in barbecue. It's not one thing in husbanding. It's not one thing in friending. It's not. Stop looking for the goddamn easy answer. And I tell you that, I'll tell that to anybody right now. You want the right way. It's hard. Like if you want to ask sales advice, tell me the sales books that you've already read. If it's zero, don't call me. Start with a sales book. Like that's my first piece of advice. Go read like 4 sales books. Any of them are fine. But if you have some real deep thing like, hey, this is what I'm running into all the time around sales and I can't get past it, happy to help with that. Hey, my bank is a bunch of assholes and they won't give me this loan. I totally want to talk to you. You just call me.
You just went to the front of the line.
Yeah. You just passed
Before
everybody
10 o'clock
else.
at night, I'm good to go, man. I'm good. So that's it. Like I'm happy to share what I know because I am patriotic. I didn't serve, but I'm a totally I'm an A10 warthog enthusiast. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm down for people who put it on the line. And I know for a fact, like my purpose around sales coaching, around capital, I am helping the U.S. economy, which needs help. I can only do it like 1 or 2 businesses at a time, but goddamn, for sure, I know that the people who touch my life, they're going to do better for themselves, which is in turn, they're going to do better for our nation. So if you have a chance out there in the world to help somebody else do better for themselves, just give it away. Just like give away your information, give away a little bit of your time, and it comes back. So like, I think that's, you know, we're now like full circle. Thank you for having me on the podcast. This has been freaking awesome.
It's been fun. It's been real, and it's been real fun.
Oh, it's been one of those.
All of the kinds, right? Yeah. Look, you guys, you know what to do. If you want to get involved, feel free to please reach out to me. You can call me at 615-307-0120. You can email me at charlie@singletreebbq.com. All the socials at singletreebbq. If you need money, you want to talk sales, make sure you read books first before you call Dan. If you need money, call Dan. Call Dan. Call Dan.
Yeah.
Call Dan.
Yeah.
Make sure you call Dan. Okay? He'll give you well, he won't give you the money. You got to go through a process, but
Yes.
he'll help you get the money.
Yep, absolutely. I share the available options. That's like
love
I
it.
talk in truthiness, like that is the most truthy statement. Sometimes the available option is you need to shine up your LinkedIn and your resume because you need to go get a job.
Yeah.
I'm happy to give you all truth for sure.
The truth bombs will be there.
Yeah.
We don't sugarcoat it. We give you the real tea. Look, guys, you know what to do. As Derry says, find somebody you know and tell them you love them. And until next time, guys, we'll see you then.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us today. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, leave us a 5-star review and come see us at the restaurant.